Growing a business, growing an online presence, growing a ministry or a church can be difficult. But there are some good ways to go about it, and there's a bad way to go about it. Let's talk about that. Like many of you, I've done a lot of research and reading into how to do online marketing, how to do social media marketing, and that's because a lot of what I do is actually online. There's my YouTube channel, there's the website, there's my social media, and because of that, the principles and practices of online and social media marketing interest me. And as I was doing my devotional reading a while back, the text I was reading relates very much to marketing. So we're going to be looking at Galatians chapter 1, verses 6 through 10. And from this passage, we're going to be learning about a problem, and we're going to get a solution. And that solution is going to come by asking two questions. So let's take a look at it. In Galatians, Paul's audience had begun to abandon the gospel, and they had begun to abandon the truth for whatever reason, whether it was to have a broader appeal, to be relevant, to be in the here and now, to have a bigger audience, to be popular, or whatever. Or maybe it was just to make themselves feel good and feel like they matter. Whatever their reasons, they began to abandon the gospel and began to adopt a different truth, a different message, a different principle of life. And Paul says that breaks my heart. And then he says those who teach and advocate and adopt a different gospel, those who come preaching a different truth, should be judged harshly. And so he's telling his readers, do not abandon the truth. But that's exactly what they've done for whatever reason. Now, in marketing today, many businesses and many marketing experts advocate the idea of give the audience what they want. Now, that principle may have some validity in some areas, in some instances, but when it comes to truth, when it comes to principles, when it comes to the gospel, when it comes to God, that's bad advice. And when you start doing that, what happens is you compromise principles, you water down the truth, you water down and dilute the gospel. In fact, some people have gone so far as to abandon the truth, abandon the gospel, just to be relevant, just to be popular, just to have a bigger audience, just to be more whatever, just to have longer or more viewers. Whatever their goal is, they abandon the truth just to grow. And that's not something we need to do. That's something that Paul actually condemns. So how do we know if we've watered down the gospel? Airplanes outside. How do we know if we've abandoned the truth or even diluted it a little? Well, we can do that by asking ourselves two questions. The first question we need to ask ourselves is this: what's our motive? That is, what are we trying to achieve? What's our goal? Why do we do what we're doing? And I've had to ask myself that question. I've asked myself even recently that question about my YouTube channel, about these videos, about what I do online, about the memes that I put on Instagram, the things I do. Why do I do it? I hope that I'm doing it to glorify God. I want to do it to glorify God. I hope that I'm doing it to help others grow in their faith. But if I'm honest with myself, yeah, there are times when I want to, for the sake of my audience, I want to be a little bit more popular, and that's wrong of me. The second question is, what's the message? What message are you conveying to your audience when you look at your social media, when you look at your Instagram stories, when you look at your Twitter feed, when you look at your YouTube videos, the things that you're putting out there, the content that you're creating, the message that you're conveying to your audience, to your viewers, to your readers? What is that message? What story are you telling with the things that you're putting online? Ask yourself, does it accord, does it align with the gospel, or does it go contrary to the gospel? Does it dilute the truth, or does it stand firm in the truth? So let's bring this all home. Paul told the Galatian believers that he was deeply heartbroken over the fact that they had abandoned the gospel, that they had adopted another truth for whatever reason. And many today, both online and in business and in ministry, do the same thing. They abandon the gospel, they abandon the truth just to be relevant, just to have more people in the churches, just to have a bigger audience, just to be popular, just to be whatever. And that's something that Paul lamented, and that's something he condemned. But when we go to see whether or not we are doing that, if we really want to know whether or not we have abandoned the truth, whether we have adopted a different truth, we need to ask ourselves, one, what's our motive? Why are we doing the things that we're doing? Why do you do what you do? And we also need to ask ourselves, what's our message? What message are we conveying with what we're putting out there? Does it accord with the truth? Does it align with the truth? Or does it abandon the truth? So take a look at what you're doing and why you're doing it. And go to God and say, God, have I abandoned you? Have I watered down the truth? Have I compromised my principles just for popularity? And if you have, repent, seek God's forgiveness, and then begin walking in God's glory and walking in God's grace, and stick to the truth. I pray you'll start doing that. God bless.